well, we better get going while the getting is good. So, we're back with
We are back.
another text, another tome, another work, another...
Number 13.
Is that right? Wow.
Yes, it is. That is right.
So this was called the Pixar... the Pixar Touch.
The Pixar Touch.
And by, I don't even know. Who is it?
Well, it's your favorite author who wrote Jamestown.
Yes. I do like that.
Which you like.
Yep. Yeah,
The Pixar Touch by David A. Price.
And this is only his second book. He's only written 2 books in his life, I guess. So we had Colonial Jamestown and then Pixar, which is a pretty wide
yeah.
of expertise.
Not necessarily. I think he just expertise on the Jamestown, but I think for this he just interviewed people probably.
Yeah, what did you think of this one?
I thought it was a light read. I think it was easy to read. I didn't find it too interesting. I got through it pretty quick, and only a couple of things surprised me. I think he's a good historical recorder. I guess I trust his not interpretation. He's just kind of a reporter, and so it wasn't very juicy as far as I could tell. It was just the facts, ma'am.
Yeah, it was not very salacious or sensational or juicy. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Or interesting.
Give me
really.
Give me the dirt. But yeah, I think that he must be just a super fan, and he's like, I'm going to do this. I mean, because no one else is doing it, and I'm going to do it. And then just what he uncovered was just, a bunch of dudes who were like, really into it, just nailed it and overcame all the, inept dinosaurs who got in their way kind of thing.
Eventually, yes. Yeah. So I think that's it. What struck me was really important, that it was the context of the times. The concept of the garage computer people, Wozniak and Steve Jobs, which followed the garage band, which is, our audio namesake. It was that, you can start out in your garage and go places, right? You can be a rock star, or you can be a Steve Jobs with Apple computer. I think the time was right. And not the time was right, but they are a product of their time. And it just took so damn long. It just really took a long time.
Yeah, I was thinking of what angles to, juicify this story. He could have taken, people like ahead of their time, finding parallels,
absolutely.
Or, creatives struggling with overhead and stuff. Well, like, that's kind of the romantic musicians angle.
Yep.
Or, like bosses who don't know they're trying to thrust on you things to be profitable, ASAP. That's a typical story. But he didn't. Yeah, he just kind of reported what happened.
Mm-hmm. And then we take all that away, because all those things that you mentioned are part of their story. Absolutely. Having, bosses that are impervious, or having to have a patron. The artistic element has to have a patron. The intrigue that went on, and all the castles of all the players was surprising to me, but kind of interesting. It was just I think it's all there, but it's just a little bit low key for some reason.
Then I maybe, struck upon his, style is like, here, I'm just gonna tell you like what it is and what happened. And he did get into the nuts and bolts of like their early software makings and their early contract work of surviving to generate profits and to keep the the boat afloat.
Right.
As this is all business banking speak. I'm going to pepper it in there, which is
Okay.
also a business banker nomenclature. No. And and he did. He just like I thought the book was like thorough. But yeah, you were left being like, yeah, but come on, help me out here.
Give me some dirt.
I thought he was kind of like a serious writer. Like, and then I was like, oh, I have to go find these examples myself because he's writing about video and digital things. So I asked, did you look up on YouTube the different things they made, the commercials, or the different examples of their breakthroughs?
I did. Although I didn't have to go on YouTube. They're all on Disney Channel. All the Pixar shorts are on Disney Channel. So I watched them all, and all of them. Because Pixar has its own subset on the Disney Plus channel, and so all those John Lasseter, the red, the unicycle thing, the lamp short, and all of the things that they've had since Disney bought them. And there's more, there's a ton more. So I did watch all of those. I watched everything, and they are brilliant. They are wonderful.
Yeah.
I love Pixar. I think part of it is that we were there during the unfolding. This is the book is our look behind the scenes, but I saw Monsters, Inc. when it first came out, fell in love with it. Absolutely love it. And so I've seen all of these movies except the Cars one. Well, I think I did see it because I know I didn't like it. My least favorite. But we're sort of, it's like, maybe reading a book about the COVID pandemic. We're there. We don't need to read a book about it. We were there, But this, looking at the inner workings and the frustrations behind the screen, it was mildly interesting, but not. It didn't. It wasn't captivating. Let's say that.
Yeah, that is a good way to put it. Like, the Jamestown book. He just talks about people dying everywhere, there's bodies everywhere, people getting scalped and or starving and digging up bodies. Like, there's enough movies, or you can imagine like Last of the Mohicans. Okay, so that's what's happening here, but it was real. But when he talks about words like rendering or render farms or the CAPS program that was a breakthrough, or ray tracing, what's in the later chapter, you had to kind of there's no I don't know what that is. So you might be like, hey, help me out here, writer. But it might be like, I told you it. I literally can't show you what it is. So that was where, like, okay, I got to find this out myself. So
I see what you mean. Yeah.
He kind of just, not stoically, just kind of, I don't know, like just plainly says that's what it was in English, and I can't envision this for you. You have to go find it, which is there on YouTube. So I think maybe one thing that was interesting that I was surprised was that talking about that Pixar program that helped to get Pixar's foot in the door of Disney, and where Disney, draws cartoons, and it's super laborious, and that's where Walt Disney's kind of management style went in of assembly line style, high pressure, whatever, keep labor wage down to make production costs enough to be profitable. That was his his whole thing. But like, I found this video explaining what that CAPS program was, so I want you to check this out.
Okay.
All right.
So instead of putting everything on the same plane, they took elements from this setting and they put them on different planes on different cells. And then they spread those different settings out. And then with this camera, they can move different planes at different speeds to create this parallax effect, to make it look like the moon stays in the same place the whole time while the rest of the setting moves at different speeds. This is a genius solution to this.
All right. So he says how, yeah, as you know, of course, cartoons are going left to right. That's, you have something moving on a background. But in this shot, the viewer goes into the scene. And I guess he says parallax is when things that are further away seem to be moving slower than things that are moving than what's immediately in front of you. Like he has a video of a car driving. Oh, we're going pretty slow, right? But then actually the view is cropped in, where if you zoom out, he's going like 70 miles an hour. So the lines immediately in front of the car are like zoom, zoom, zoom. But the lines that are ahead of the car are slowly creeping up until they quickly speed up. And he says that, and let's see if I can quickly jump to how Disney used to do it. This is a hugely like costly thing to do.
Massive. Like this thing took up so much space just to get these types of shots. But this solution has a big problem. It's incredibly expensive. And by expensive, I mean it takes a lot of labor to make this thing work. You have all of these different planes available to use. And so you have to keep track of the distance of each plane from the camera. You have to keep track of how much each plane needs to move horizontally or vertically. All these different movements you have.
All right. So he says how, yeah, mathematically, by how fast you want to seem like you're moving, you have to calculate how fast, how much closer to the camera each plane has to shift. And you're figuring out, okay, so if the moon is infinitely far away, that's like the final whatever, and a house is 10 miles away, and this tree is like 30 feet away, mathematically, how much do I very minutely bring those planes closer to the viewer? And so that's why he says, like, for old Disney movies where that shot would take like weeks to do like 10 seconds
for a computer.
And
for 10 seconds of film, for 10 seconds of visual film, right?
Of no action setup to an intro. He's like, yeah, so it's just ridiculous. So he says, the book says that in the final scene of The Little Mermaid, that is there, and they tried it out, that Pixar's like, a computer can do that for you. A computer can figure out how you just punch it in and it'll do that. And they were like, mystified by that. And so then he writes on to say that The Lion King had so many, it was like everywhere. There were like 30 of them, all thanks to the CAPS Pixar software. So that opening scene is so impressive. Let's see if I can cut to it here. Like
the different planes as he's flying through, and you can kind of see the things that are moving together on a single plane, and then you have subsequent planes after it, all zooming in as he flies through them. That's why this is an impressive shot, because it's using this multi-plane effect. But again, when I say that this is not the most impressive starting shot here, this one is more impressive because it's a throwaway shot, and yet it's using this multi-plane effect. Before CAPS, they never would have done a multi-plane shot for something so insignificant.
So yeah, Lion King is like loaded with those, basically the precursor to like 3D animation, I guess, where the characters and things are moving in the cartoon and you are getting closer as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. I'll show this, and this is horrible for the listeners, but yeah. So this is Hunchback of Notre Dame, that intro scene, which I actually do remember.
These multi-plane shots for grand, cinematic, just beautiful, impressive, establishing shots. Something as simple as...
So yeah, as you, that shot is the camera going into the French or Paris, neighborhood, would be like enormously costly and just be like, we're not going to do this. So I thought that was pretty neat. That was Pixar's first way to get in, and they were just a vendor or like a animation little unit to do these certain no action setup shots or something.
Well, it's the Pixar touch. It's that what all of this is, and the reason, first of all, the Jamestown setting is so much more dramatic, of course, because dramatic things are happening. People are dying. Survival is on the table here. It's also our own history, so it's maybe more interesting to us. But just the nature of the development within Pixar, these technological developments are monumental, but virtually invisible to us because what they're representing is reality. And so we just assume, of course I expect to see it this way, not recognizing the enormous amount of work and technological advances that needed to occur behind the scenes for us to simply enjoy it. And it's a cartoon, it's not earth-shaking events. It's a cartoon. So I think that's why, we just simply cannot quite appreciate all the work that went into it, except that, as we all know, when you have the credits for any Pixar movie, it's obvious all the technicians are first and the voice actors come much, much, much later because their role in it is so small compared to all the tech workers. And always there are so many babies born during these movies. They list them. So that there are years-long events, years-long projects to do these movies. Did you notice that in the credits of these Pixar movies? Have you stayed for credits? They always list all the babies that were born during the making of.
No, I've never
because
seen that.
Yes, because it takes so many years to make these movies.
Yeah, that's crazy. He keeps commenting on how every new animation challenge just consumes rendering time, which is a process that a computer will do, I guess, of printing a frame of movement into the final version.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is, but I know it's a somehow kind of an assimilation or a bringing together of everything that needs to be brought together, and it's done by computer instead of by human beings somehow, by looking and going back, back and not a lot of back and forthing. So yeah, I'm not able anyway to appreciate the terrific technological advances that went into making these movies. And, early on in one of the early chapters, the one about Catmull, who have you ever heard of him? He's the president of Pixar.
No.
He's the tech guy. It was a brand new field for him, and this was some time ago. So he was exploring. So all of the stuff that happened with Pixar was all exploration, and the technology wasn't advanced enough to create what they wanted to try and create. Like any, burgeoning or beginning industry, it's it's a back and forth of technology creating what's possible, artists asking for more, and technology rising to the occasion. So what it was described as is he did a lot of early on technological advances, even as a graduate student, but there was no marketable product, and there's no jobs out there for what he was interested in doing. So he was ahead of his time, absolutely, as any new industry or any new venture is. And when you're ahead of your time, like Lasseter was, and he tries to, work at Disney and do something interesting, then the old guys, squashed him. He got fired by trying to do an end around around the old way of doing animation.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's yeah, it is funny. This was of course, we're from Silicon Valley. I worked there, and it's just you're just surrounded by just people who have money just to throw away at like their job is literally just to throw money away because there's so much just pouring into that specific area. And but yeah, this was that Apple and eBay and Google were like, the real ones that caught everyone's attention. So this is before all that, where literally this old dude just was rich, like a Great Gatsby, and just hired people. Hey, make something. We're gonna make the best computer you can make. That's gonna cost like $50,000. I'm talking hospitals are gonna want it. I'm talking like NASA's gonna want it. I'm talking DARPA or whatever. And literally the staff are just, let's see how long we can just capture this guy's money.
Yeah.
And make a movie.
Right.
And then they split. And so that's not a typical way to do something. But yeah, they totally just kind of scammed this guy for funding.
and he used them also, because that was this Shure, Shure, who he started this school that was really just a diploma mill on the East Coast. So he was just a billionaire, I suppose. And what do you want? Do you want this? Okay, let's buy that. And he bought 50 of them or something, huge expensive computers. But he was also trying to catch the wave. It was the times, and tech was king. So how many people, I remember when you guys were little, and I would hear about, oh yeah, these friends of mine, they live in Palo Alto, and they did a startup, he sold it, now they're millionaires. And so everybody wanted to get in on that. It was all part of that garage band, going to computer band, going to, nowadays it's create an app, right? That some big company will buy and make you a millionaire.
Yep. The so then the team gets, they leave, they ditch, that guy, and they split to George Lucas's, hot ticket after making Star Wars, and he hired them to say, look, we're flying around little models and just, shooting frame by frame of like spaceships flying around. This is just taking too much time. Kind of like that animation example. It's just, we have to shoot every single one. So can you do that with a computer? And they don't really make anything for him. They they just kind of futz around. They have those powerful computers, that's their kind of big asset, and just keep working on how to make these like super short little videos. And finally, like nothing really happens. That LucasArts had their own little digital team that they lived next to or something. The writer goes into a lot of detail here about that, and I'm like, is this going to be relevant later? Or
I think what's interesting about this is that, like their first patron, Shure, Lucas wanted to use them for his purposes. He wanted computers to streamline, editing, sound editing and stuff, very practical purposes. But always these guys wanted to make animated movies. And so whoever their patron was, they were at cross purposes, or at least they were at different purposes. At least George Lucas, even the Shure, they had more practical reasons in mind. And remember that at this time, apparently the Disney studios, their animation department was just kind of moribund. It wasn't doing much. And so animation wasn't a hot ticket or an interesting topic, but technology in general was. So let's use computers to streamline these effects. They did create this Pixar imaging computer, but it had, again, not much marketability and didn't really serve Lucas's purposes. And then in 1986, George Lucas got a divorce, and so he's starting to sell off some of his assets, including this whole division. He told Catmull again to sell the division. And so they started looking for a buyer.
Yep. Yeah, it's all that's true. It's all and that's kind of the heart of the thing. Like yeah, I'm going to pay you and I'm going to buy this for something later, but now would be better. And that's the main complaint. Like, yeah, I like how the book did a good job of just saying, the bosses they wanted something. That's not just like, hey Mozart, I'm whatever you want, please, they were like, come on, what are we doing? And so many young people like you're describing, like, well, I have an idea, just let me do it.
Right.
Like, well, who
just
wants
pay
it?
me and let me do it. Right.
What are you talking about? Like, well, if you just let me do it, then it'll work. Like, well, yeah, and that's what it's just crazy.
It is, but all artistic endeavors, or we can stretch that beyond artistic, but like Mozart, they need a patron, somebody who will support them so that they can produce art. But these guys wanted something more marketable. And so they were at odds, the patrons and the Pixar company.
Yeah.
And then they got bought by Steve Jobs. Who knew?
Ooh.
I had no idea that Steve Jobs was involved with Pixar in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that is weird. But whoa. Did you happen to, before that, while they were still with Lucas, did you read about that little video they made about Andre and Wally B that like blew people's minds at the time?
I guess I did not watch that because
okay,
no.
we should watch that.
Okay. All right.
So this was what they made while working for George Lucas, and George Lucas was like, look, I'm trying to make actual movies, so can you help with that? And they said, yeah, but check this out. So here's what they made. It's 1 minute.
I think I did see this, but let's see.
Okay. Okay, so as a bee kind of bothering a sleeping guy runs away, and the bee chases him. And the bee stings him, and that's it. That's the whole video.
That's it.
Now it is impressive though. Shading is super hard for artists to do. Like, where's the light? But that is there in that video, which is I don't know when it's from, but yeah, you could see the light, the bee casting a shadow on the other thing. But yeah, if I was George Lucas, I'd be like, what is this?
Yeah, because he's making real movies. He's not interested in animation, but that's exactly what these guys want to do. They want to make cartoons. They want to make animation movies. They want to make a full what do you call it? Feature animated. They want to make an animation feature, animated feature, whatever they want to make a full length thing.
But what is also what's ironic is, like, what's ironic later is that when Lucas re-releases Star Wars, all 3 movies in the theaters with new CG animated little scenes, and they were horrendous. Like, I think they had like Jabba the Hutt kind of wiggling around talking to Harrison Ford in a deleted scene, and it was like, what the hell is this? And it was just like, what? And then Yoda, I think, was a cartoon character suddenly, and everyone's like, what are you doing?
So much for industrial light and magic. Yeah. Well, that's the Pixar touch. Yeah. this the ability to show a shadow like that was a huge breakthrough, as I recall reading. It was to get that realistic presentation of something casting a proper shadow was a huge breakthrough.
Yep. So then, they go to Steve Jobs, and he's famous already. He's, pretty rich, from Apple, although I think he was ousted from there, but it wasn't such a public exit.
Oh, yes, it was.
Oh, it was?
Oh, yes, it was. Oh, yeah, I remember. He got kicked out of Apple, and he's, even though this revealed, we all knew that Wozniak is the one that sort of designed the Apple computer. In this book, we discovered that somebody else actually, somebody else's design was really, and I didn't write down the details, was really instrumental in the ultimate design of Apple computers. But he was the force behind it. He was, well, again, like Schur and like Lucas, he was the visionary. He was the visionary that had the drive to get what he wanted and do what he wanted. But his ouster from Apple was huge, gigantic. And then he started his own company called Next, another computer company. But I guess he had a lot of money. Of course, I think he had a lot of money. But he didn't buy Pixar for the amount of money that Lucas wanted to sell it for. He waited until the price came down to $5 million.
Yeah.
And that's what he bought it for.
Yeah, he's pretty savvy about value. Yeah, I gathered that from the book too. He was pretty savvy about financing and markets and rival bids. He's like, I think it's something, but it's not this much. And he knew, it's all, value is tied to products and who are the customers and how much do they want it now? How much are they gonna want it later? And so he was pretty savvy at that. I realized, as he is just a dude from California who kind of played those New Yorkers who are the hub of all valuations of those big IPOs and sales like that. He's like, no, I'm gonna wait. And it was even like kind of a joint thing. Like, I'll pay $5 million in cash, and I think Philips also was the partner or something, and they gave $5 million. So it's like the company was worth $5 million, but also another $5 million to like keep it operating into the future.
Yeah, it was complicated. Is right. Yeah.
In the end, like $5 million went to Lucas, and another $5 million went to the workers so they could operate and do something.
Yeah, they did get some shares, I think, but it was interesting that he, what he had, and God saved me. What this book taught me is God saved me from visionaries. I don't want to deal with visionaries. They're just exhausting. And especially Steve Jobs. This was pretty revealing about him in a very pretty much mild way about how difficult he was, to put it mildly, for his employees to deal with him. And, but there's no denying that he did parlay this into a lot of money for himself, and came out of, at the end of this book, he ended up with Disney stock and all kinds of, great things. Of course, he died, of course, at a very young age. So I don't know. I'm not sure what good it did him.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, Apple now is the most valuable company in human history right now. So, like, whatever, Amazon or Bezos or whoever the individual people are who are the most rich people, or Musk, but Apple as a company has the most. There's $2.3 trillion in value, in terms of, if you had all the stock, you would be a trillionaire.
Yeah, so
a multi-trillionaire. Of
course, he's a book on his own, and there've been movies made about him too. But even to just follow the Steve Jobs thing, trail a little bit further, eventually Apple had him come back on. And it was at a time when Apple was floundering. And he's the one that brought it back to the black. And, by introducing things like iPods and the iPhone and all that kind of stuff, he was extremely innovative. But as far as Pixar and Steve Jobs go, they also were at cross purposes because Catmull, he wanted, computer machines to serve the artist. So they could be big, expensive machines to serve the artistic needs of a few people, just the artists that are making animated films. But Jobs always had this vision of, we'll have one of these in every home by such and such a date. His Apple computer put one in every home. He sort of envisioned this also for what the Pixar folks were working on. And so again, they were at cross purposes.
Yeah, it was funny. He said that, the word processor, the home computer, he could see that will replace desktop publishing, which is that where you write a letter or by hand or by typewriter, you give it to somebody who has a printing machine and they make a more good version of it. Like, I don't even know what he was talking about. Desktop publishing was like he brought desktop publishing into the home. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, I think that term, there's publishing, and then that's where you send your manuscript off to a publisher to set it up in type and print it and bind it. But if you have a home computer, you can desktop publish, and you can make your own documents, and you can print them, and you can figure out a way to get them bound, and all the peripheral, companies and businesses that support that. So you don't need to go to a publisher. It doesn't need to be, for better or worse, it doesn't need to be viewed by anybody else before you put it out there to the public.
I remember you were impressed with, you made a birthday card from just a piece of paper.
Oh my God, yeah.
Folded and then folded again.
Yeah.
So two sides were flapping open, but it did have a book fold, and it just a happy birthday outside, and
it would print on the front of one, fourth, and the other side of another fourth. Oh yeah, that was wonderful. I was probably print shop.
Yeah. You were like blown away. But
God,
quick picks or something like that.
Oh man, yeah.
And,
the home computer absolutely revolutionized everybody's life, because where I used to have a file folder of hand-drawn maps, which I enjoyed doing. If you want to come to my house for a party and I'll draw a map,
what?
I would, yeah. But now all you have to do is send them a link to Google Maps, and Bob's your uncle.
Wow.
Oh my God, yes.
This is one Jobs got this dead wrong. He thought that Pixar could make some kind of computer that, this be in every home. Everybody's making some kind of 3D shape polygon little design that's going to be super useful. And that wasn't right. So then Jobs he shifted to their rendering software. Like, no, this will be good. We can license this out, sell it, and people will like it. And that was called like RenderMan, and that's actually still updated and still made today. The book says it's like 5% of their revenue, and it's just a I guess a powerful program that. Yeah, rendering is like render. I think is like the word like develop for film. You have the film, and then you can kind of develop. It takes time. It has certain conditions, and you have to kind of leave it alone, and it'll make a final like print. That is the final thing. So, for example, when we are both recording now as raw audio information, but when you finally convert it into an MP3 or a format that a player can interpret into sound for a headphone or a speaker, that's called rendering. And so if you were recording like a band with like drums and singing all these different things, you might have to listen to it in a lower fidelity version so that your computer can process all these things happening at the same time.
Hmm.
right? Or you buy a suit, or but nowadays computers can handle it. Um, let's say like, yeah, you're making a movie, like a video with multiple scene changes. As you watch it in your editing program, it's going to be a lower fidelity, a lower quality version, just so you can see how things change. But
Mm-hmm.
when you render it, it's going to be the full high fidelity version. Which, if you try to do that in a computer, it would freak out and like crash.
Okay. And seamless, right? I mean, it would be more, it seems to me like if you're talking music, don't you have to have a mixer to bring the drums and the guitar and the piano all together? Isn't it sort of, was my impression of rendering. I don't,
Yeah, that's right. You play as you play it back for yourself. You have multiple different
tracks
audio,
or something.
tracks playing it at the same time. But in the old days, like when I was in college on my little iBook or whatever, I would try to play 5 different things, and it would freeze because it was too taxing on the computer. So I think there was options where you could lower the quality down, but I didn't know what it was. There's buffering, which creates more like, give me some breathing room here as you do stuff. But then the rendering is like the final print in high fidelity that can be interpreted by some kind of player.
And the rendering, my interpretation, and I could definitely be wrong here, was the process of bringing it all together so that it would match up in this high fidelity form.
Well, you could line stuff up in the editing program in real time, but the rendering is like the printing of it. Like, this is it.
Okay.
This is where you take 20 tracks and it becomes a 2-track stereo thing. And it's done.
Oh, okay. So melding and all kinds of different words that don't quite fit the bill, but get close to what's going on.
So I bet in Pixar, as they're working with computers at the time and they're dealing with like hair blowing in the wind or like smoke, they might be looking at like a solid white cloud, adjusting and shifting in the air. But because maybe like they say, okay, remove the character. I just want to see the cloud or something moving, because maybe that lets their computer work faster as they're trying to animate. And then they render the character, the cloud together for like 3 seconds, and that takes whatever 5 hours. And they look at it and they go, "Oh yes, that's looking good."
Okay, yeah,
I wonder.
That's kind of like what I think I might imagine it to possibly be.
Yeah.
It's magic. Let's face it, it's magic.
Yeah, because I don't think when he talks about, the movie took like a month to render, I don't think he's saying that everyone finishes their work and they hit render and it just makes an 1.5-hour movie and then they finally watch it. I think that as they animate, they render, samples and segments and go like, is that right? Kind of like a photographer might take pictures and then develop it and like, oh, this is not, and they got to change it as they go.
Okay.
But I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't think none of us here outside this book know. But nevertheless, Steve Jobs poured a lot of money into Pixar. And John Lasseter is quoted of saying, we spent a lot of Steve's money. We spent a lot of Steve's money.
And he even got lines of credit just because he's Steve Jobs. Like, even lenders were like, yeah, we'll give you that. And he just dumped it into the unprofitable Pixar. So, So let's cut now to Toy Story. They finally get a deal to make their own movie. And it starts off being like a tin soldier, and he does kind of brush over how difficult it is to have characters and arcs and everything work together.
Oh, I don't think he does. I think
really?
I think he gives a lot of time to that, because in that chapter that's about Toy Story, and John Lasseter is involved because he's the art guy, he's the story guy. You can have all the tech in the world, which they did, and they made something for this Shure guy many years ago, but it was garbage. Why? Because there was no story. And so my reading about Toy Story is Disney put all the finances in. They sort of, because they were the big guns there. And the people at Pixar needed to learn as they went how important it was to demonstrate the characters and have the story written acceptably and properly. So Lasseter really learned as he went with Toy Story. And originally, for example, Woody was not sympathetic at all. They brought in writers from Disney. Disney stopped production, then gave them the okay to start again. Joss Whedon came in and contributed as well. So they really had to work on the story and make sure that that the story made sense and the characters were sympathetic and believable. So you saw, my notes here about Toy Story say it went through several iterations. They went to a seminar about Aristotle's Poetics in order to learn how to make a proper story. Disney brought in new writers, Joss Whedon, and in 1993, they shut down production. And that started in 1991. And then more writers, Stanton, and 1994, they were able to start up again. They learned as they went, and they also followed the guidelines of the 9 old men from Disney, how to make an animated character appear realistic, so that they had to have a picture of the character thinking and then acting, which was we don't even think about that, but it makes it more realistic. Facial expressions, how far eyes should go to the left or to the right, that kind of stuff, those little details in the story element, and the technology had to learn how to produce that. They really learned as they went, and it's a masterpiece. Toy Story. I watched it again. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I was. I thought, what. So oppositely, when he explains the software, he's like, "Yeah, I can only tell you what it is. You have to go find it out." But when he got to the story writing part, I thought, okay, this you can kind of dig into more. Like he said, "Yeah, Woody's not likable," or whatever. He went to a conference and learned about writing. He looked at this other example, but I thought, can you tell me more? What is it? Like, this is your chance to dig into something. Like, you can, by language, you can tell me what is it about storytelling. And I had a teacher one time who told me that Pixar's one of the simple secrets that they do. You have a character who has 4 squares, and 3 of them are good things, and one is like, he's a hard worker, good leader, and good father, whatever. It could be anything. And you got 1 square that's something bad, and that
jealousy.
That bad thing will just consume all the other ones, and then that's your story when that thing comes along. So the bad thing is it could be anything. He loves like hot dogs. And so then you have, he's living a normal life, and then some kind of hot dog contest happens, and it just destroys everything or ruins everything.
Yeah. Yep.
And he said that's the Pixar style. 3 things good,
and also sincerity. And they're very the through line of what's important to the characters. Everything is for the Toy Story. Everything is for, what's the kid's name?
Andy.
Everything is for Andy. We have to do everything for Andy, and everything is for Andy. That through line is very clear. And so that essence of loyalty is very much the undercurrent of the whole story. And so what ruins loyalty? Jealousy. He likes somebody better.
Yeah, or he's threatened by So, they hit a home run, and it's mind-blowing. I don't even remember really, but they close a deal with Disney to distribute the movie, and that's all the access of toys and in the everything into the hearts and minds of kids and families, and they signed for like 5 movies. So they made it.
That was the original. That was the original contract. And so 2 things stood out at this juncture here. So the author makes a point of saying that Disney really missed the toy tie-in with Toy Story, and they really dropped the ball on it and didn't pursue Buzz Lightyear and Woody toys and, all the kinds of stuff that go around with that. They just dropped the ball on it. And the other thing is that I guess Steve Jobs saw Disney launch a movie just before Pixar's movie came out. Maybe it was Pocahontas or something, and they rented like some huge area in Central Park, New York, and huge fanfare. And he said he apparently recognized that if Disney puts their full force behind Toy Story, this thing is going to take off like crazy. And that's when he decided to make Pixar go public, even though he was advised against it. And, everybody said, don't worry, he's not going to do it. It's not going to go public because they have debt, But he did it anyway, and he was right.
Yeah. That was, I got that part too. That was unthinkable for an unprofitable company to go IPO. Like, are you out of your mind? But he knew that you schedule it for after the movie comes out. And also, luckily, another company, Netscape, one of the first web browsers, which was significant because it used to be you had AOL or Prodigy, and that was your internet. You just had to only see whatever AOL gave you. But if you had a browser, you could type in the www. whatever website, and you could go. And I guess you could do it before, but Netscape was the first one. It's like, oh, this is like actually like usable or I guess intuitive. And so they were not profitable, and they had an IPO. So Steve Jobs like, oh, we can do it too. Or that like opened the eyes of the Wall Street bankers.
Yeah, and it went crazy, just crazy. So then, because the company got so much money from that, now he has leverage over Disney, and so he can renegotiate the contract with Disney and bring Pixar up to a much more even setting and even stature, I guess you want to say. And so he did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. That's part of the next deal is 5 movies, 50-50 split. But I think Disney gets ownership of the characters and whatever.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
which is
and any sequels to Toy Story, they have to do. It's not part of their contract or something. But it doesn't matter because these guys, they're kind of interested in money. This came through so clearly to me, but really, they weren't terribly interested in money. They really just wanted to do what they wanted to do, and that was make movies. And so they did.
Yep. And then now this is, I think, the second half of the book, where now we're done talking about software and stylings and methodology. Now it's like the intrigue of corporate competition and like global markets, all controlled in the minds of a few like dudes.
Right. That was astonishing. That's right. And what was going on at Disney? Oh my gosh. All the intrigue going on there with Eisner and what the other guy, what's his name? I forget. But Roy Disney, all these machinations going on.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is kind of, I don't know, Roman. It's ancient politics, and even these corporate structures have, bylaws, which I guess is, I don't know. I heard someone explain it as like it's our own laws,
right?
Like
it's how our laws are how we're going to operate. Yeah,
it was separate from. Sure, the nation we're in. We're like our own nation, and this is how you cannot sell your ownership unless we all approve or 60% approve, or you can only pass whatever to your children. I don't know. It's all these different laws. So then they have a new outright rival, which is DreamWorks,
Yes.
which is Spielberg, who is
Yeah.
briefly, introduced as like the Pixar's enemy through DreamWorks, but mainly this guy Katzenberg, who was left Disney under hostile.
Yeah, because of Eisner. Yeah. And a pretty good betrayal going on there as well. The only reason that Steve Jobs doesn't stink so bad is that he was successful. And Eisner, when Steve Jobs reorganized Pixar and gave himself and Catmull and Lasseter the lion's share of all the stock in it, that was pretty awful in my view from what I read in the book. And the betrayal that went on in Disney, what's his name?
Katzenberg.
There was a big stink about Eisner, and he left with a big stink on him because he wasn't successful. He was ousted, and Steve Jobs was successful. So I think they were equally bad as far as cutthroat.
Yeah,
corporate.
A guy died tragically in like a helicopter accident called Wells, and he's like the Julius Caesar, and then the empire is now split between Eisner and then Katzenberg, who are the Octavian and the Mark Antony or something, and then Katzenberg leaves, starts his own empire with Spielberg and Geffen, which I don't know what that is about, and we're gonna do it too. And they make Shrek, which is my favorite computer movie.
But they first made Ants.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what.
Right when Bug's Life came out, and this big camaraderie between all these geeks. They used to go to these conventions and stuff like that. So that's when all the projects, when they came out with Ants at the same time that Bug's Life, that's when then Pixar decided to be secret about their projects. They don't share anything anymore.
I've never seen Ants, but
no, I haven't either.
I heard it's like more like adult.
Yeah, it's Woody Allen.
Yeah, a huge ensemble cast is in there, but it's just a total ripoff. And the politicking of oh no, another movie DreamWorks is Prince of Egypt, which is a good musical movie, which I do remember had some. Oh, they got some computer stuff in there too, like Disney's got the magic carpet, and this has got some stuff. And they were like, we're going to put out A Bug's Life on the day of Prince of Egypt. And a phone call is made saying, if you don't do that, we will cancel Ants entirely, which is like, if you remove your army from Spain, we will grant you freaking Africa or something. And so yeah, total rivals. And then so the Shrek is good. I think they make Kung Fu Panda eventually. That's not in the book, but DreamWorks is a powerhouse too.
Because animation, thanks to Pixar, because animation became hot again. It wasn't. Nobody was interested. Nobody was doing it, but Pixar did it great. And so then everybody else, well, let's get in on this. We can do our own thing, right?
So then we get, Toy Story 2. This is where the first wrinkle happens between Eisner and Jobs, saying it's a 5-movie deal, but a sequel, by definition, is a sequel, not a movie. So they're like, what? What are you talking about? So, but they concede. They say, okay, fine. Which is, we could argue this out in court, but that's just this dude's position saying you have to. That's so beyond contract. Like, but come on.
Well, the terms of their contract said, that you have to make 5 movies with us, not counting sequels to the original. Yeah, I think.
I don't know. Did it literally say that?
I think it must have. Why else would they do it?
I think that it was one of those corporate things where Jobs is like, well, you really gonna do this? You're of course wrong. And a movie means original characters with franchisable and marketable, toys and whatever. That's what a movie means to us. And I think that Jobs said like, fine, but I will not renew with you. Like, I think it was one of those things where it's too costly. You're really going to argue this? And he just gave up. He said, okay, fine.
Okay.
So, but Toy Story 2 was like an even better movie than the first one, so that's a hit. Everyone's happy because it was another miracle home run. Then they do Monster Inc. and the chapter starts with a lawsuit where someone wrote a kid's book and musical that's just very similar.
Well, she thought it was very similar, but the judge ruled against her.
Yeah. The judge said, come on.
That's exactly what he said. His ruling was, well, come on.
Also at this time, the company moves to Emeryville at a Del Monte cannery site, which I can't imagine just free acreage in Emeryville in 2002. Like who?
Oh yeah, Emeryville was so. Yeah,
it'd be like now, what? Like, oh, we're gonna buy land in Berkeley, 10 acres.
Or like, San Jose.
Where is there still anything available? But it's right there. Another lawsuit, another artist sues, saying his characters look like Sully and Mike Wazowski very similarly, and they both work in a monster city. And so this was again another one of those things where there is zero evidence that any of this material was given to us. We deny, which is total coincidence, and they go with the argument, you, regardless of if it's copied or whatever, you didn't copyright it, so you're screwed anyway. So it's like that's a legal maneuver saying you will lose anyway because you didn't copyright it. So it's free use, or you have no claim to it anyway. Not that we admit that we did take it.
But I think they did settle with him.
Yeah, they settled. So it was like totally they weakened. Look, you don't have a open and shut case anyway because you yourself don't have rights to it, to your own work.
To your own work. Oh, that's it. I don't admit any wrong, but I'm going to pay you $1 million. But I don't admit any wrong.
Yeah, and so they settle because they know that dragging it out would tarnish the name. So that's all total corporate intrigue and strategizing and maneuvering and positioning, which is just crazy. But I like it.
Well, anyway, they keep plugging along. They make hit after hit, like 6 hits in a row. All these wonderful animated movies, and then eventually Eisner gets ousted by Iger at Disney, and Iger buys Pixar. And so everybody's happy. So this is the perfect blend, where they didn't mesh well with Shure. They didn't mesh well with George Lucas. They didn't exactly mesh well with Jobs, but now they're where they should be. Disney, they should be there. And they maintain their independence, I think, to a great extent because, they are a Pixar movie is a Pixar movie. It's got the Pixar touch. And they're just enormously successful. And all the additional movies that they've made, just fantastic.
Yeah, that's another, like you said before, they have leverage. They've got tons of cash. They've got the hearts and minds. Like the Disney executive Iger realizes that like 10 of his characters are in a parade are all Pixar's.
Right.
Yeah, this is so full of just like intrigue. Now I was like, okay, now this is getting better. Where the reason why Jobs hated Eisner was that he went to go speak about piracy at Congress and said how like, yeah, you got these people. Look, I saw an ad the other day that said rip, mix, burn. And this dinosaur just thought that rip meant steal or rip off. But rip actually means to take from a CD and import it into your hard drive. So it meant take your CDs, make your own mix CD, and then print it and burn your own CD. So that was a direct call publicly that Apple, and that was an Apple ad, was pro piracy. And he said, I will not work with him. I will not have a contract with him. So that was pretty significant.
Yeah, Eisner comes out of this book with huge stink on him, because in one of the opening chapter, I don't like the opening chapter because it's kind of a, here we are in 1986 or something, and then he goes into detail. It gives us an overview. It's all right, but I was a little bit disconcerted by that. But the opening chapter, he talks about how Eisner, when he was chairman of Disney or president or whatever his title was, would hold the shareholders meetings in places with inclement weather to discourage attendance. Like they'd have meetings, Disney shareholder meetings in Minnesota in February, so people wouldn't come. So he was a manipulator, and he was a kind of a bully. He was trying to bully Pixar and try to bully Jobs. It just comes down to that.
Yeah, it's totally just war. That's why these people read these they study the freaking Roman Empire and generals and all that stuff. So, and yeah, even he ousted Roy Disney. I think he's the brother of Walt, but I guess he's the son.
No, I think he's like the nephew.
Oh, really?
I think his Walt Disney's brother's son eventually.
One passage says Roy flew in from his Irish castle for a board meeting, and then was revealed that the bylaws state after 72 you must retire. You're just too old.
Yeah.
And he tried to rally the senators to his side, saying, no, it's him that has to go. And that didn't work. So he wrote his resignation letter to both Eisner and the newspaper, saying, I protest this. Disney is now all about just quick throw up parks and push out sequels, and it's not, we've lost our way. And
Well, the name, that's, God, that's all he needs is the name, the Disney name.
Yeah. So that's all. That was, now I like this stuff. And so then as I was thinking about that old software stuff, maybe I don't like that. So it's on me to find it out. So yeah, I like the second half better.
Well, no, it's because I think it's because you're interested in people, not technology. And that's okay. That's an all right thing to be.
Well, I like that. I like efficiency or optimizing, how people had to, like that CAPS program, you have to squeeze these planes together so it looks natural and just shoot a picture of it. But a computer can do that. You just take out the human effort and never mind human error, just the human having to do it.
Actually, I think if you knew what it was like before and you see the process of making it what it is and the result of what it is now, yeah, you'd appreciate that more. And you are kind of techie that way. So if you look into that, yeah, you'll have a better understanding. I'm not particularly interested. I like the end result, but I don't care how they got there.
Well, I'm over here in Japan, and I was at the, civic office, and I'm waiting for some stupid thing. And then I see behind the counter, I see a woman working at a desk. She's looking at a computer screen and writing from the computer screen. Not like a memo, but like a full-on document, filling out lines, spaces where information belongs from a computer. And I'm like, mother of God. This is
100% employment.
This is like training a horse to walk backwards. Why would we ever do that today?
For 100% employment. For 100% employment, that's why.
So, in an investor call, Steve Jobs takes a swing at Eisner, saying, "Look, we're glad to be done with Disney. They've had minimal creative help. Look at their movies." He just drops the bomb on there. And look at their sequels. Cinderella 2, what? And yeah, he just totally destroys him. And so yeah, in the end, Iger, so now the reign of Iger, which is seems very Caesarian, the next then a golden age dawned. And
it did, because recently he retired and put his guy in place in Disney, but it didn't work out. So he's back at Disney.
oh, really?
Iger. Yeah, really.
Yeah, there's so many things on YouTube about what do CEOs even do? I mean, what do they make? And it's like you just can't even comprehend how much
Yeah.
people just you just can't even sleep. You have like thousands of jobs. You're like, oh my god, it's just like
Yeah. I tell you what to do, buddy.
yeah. So then ends with Cars, which I did not like at all. I thought it was really stupid.
I didn't either. But that's Lasseter's baby, that he got to do what he wanted to do. So that's why, yes, he earned lots of money. He got lots of money, Lasseter did. And we didn't mention him very much, but he was the creativity bit in this triumvirate. But he's always been interested in cars, and this was his baby project. But, it was a vanity project. So, it wasn't appealing to everybody.
Yeah, it might have been. Although number one for me, it is just what's his name's voice. Owen Wilson is like one of the most annoying actors.
Oh, is he?
To me.
Okay.
He's got this. Well, why do I?
Yeah,
What do I
yeah.
have to do about? What? Oh, it's so stupid. I just hate him. From that era, 2002 to 2007, he was just in like everything.
Yeah, he was present a lot.
Oh, then finally the purchase, the acquisition of Pixar was for $7.4 billion in Disney stock to Pixar. And so Jobs owns, 49% of
Substantial
Pixar.
stock of, and so now he's got all kinds of Disney stock.
So does that mean, he just pocketed $3.2 billion worth of Disney stock went directly to Jobs' account? And the win was, okay, we buy Pixar, but now you, Pixar bosses, you control both our Burbank animation and your own animation. So we buy you, but you get us. You get our stuff.
Yeah, you get us. You get us, our association. You bet. And Lasseter, not only in charge of the animation, but he's also in charge of creativity at the parks.
Oh, is that right? I read that a couple times. Like, is that what they're saying?
Well, that's what it sounded like. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it said this sentence was significant. Pixar would equal 10% of the entire like Disney empire, which includes TV networks, the theme parks, the all the real estate, and like all past assets and stuff is 10% is Pixar, which in whatever 2006, I think Pixar was they started making movies like for 10 years. 10 years ago, they now contribute 10% of the whole total value.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Of a 100-year company, or from 1920.
Because Disney, the parks, the movies, the toys, the cruises, the what else? The clothing, all the stuff that they sell in their stores and everything. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And they own like ABC, and I don't know if they own Marvel now, but that was probably later after Pixar. But do they own National Geographic? Because National Geographic is on the Disney Channel too.
Yeah, they own Marvel. They bought Marvel for $4 billion.
And Star Wars, and they also own Star Wars franchise, right?
I think so.
Yeah, because they're doing all that Mandalorian and everything.
But so that shows that even Stan Lee and the comic makers since 1940 making characters, making stories, Pixar was worth like twice as much for the 7 movies they had made since they started. They were worth twice as much as all the Marvel content and storylines that they could get.
Well, I wonder, that's interesting. Maybe because, they're not violent, number one, so they have a broader audience, because even though they're sort of geared toward children, they do have an adult component, or adults are attracted to it. I like it. I like watching them. And it's the quality. The quality is so good.
Of which one? Marvel?
Of Pixar.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's all timing too. Pixar's at the height of we could do it ourselves, we could do it with you. We can be your rival, we can whatever. We can do anything.
Right.
Marvel has been around. There's been cartoons, there's been movie attempts, different studios. It's all sprawling. It's kind of it's a tired brand, but
and it's been, hit and miss sometimes, some wins, some losses. Yeah.
Yep. And
I'm go ahead.
Well, that's it. I'm saying that's it.
Yeah, that is it. I was sorry that it ended at the sale of Pixar to Disney, because it kind of ended too early, because they're still creating and they're still making great movies.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of them. I've not watched whatever. It's funny. I used to sing in Oakland in this choir, and one of the singers was a producer for Pixar, and she made the Scottish one called Brave, about a girl who shoots a bow and arrow. But I can't remember ones Pixar after like Incredibles.
Monsters,
Incredibles,
Inc.
I was where I was like, okay, I don't like this because it's too copy of the Marvel Fantastic Four characters.
Yeah.
So that's when I
didn't care for the Incredibles. I didn't care for them too much either, but they certainly, the person that was, at the forefront of that was this Brad Bird. And boy, they just think he's a real game changer. They like him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they talk about that too. Yeah, he made that Iron Giant, which Andrew likes a lot.
That was good. I liked that.
I don't know if I saw it. He called it a masterpiece.
I think so. Yeah, it was great. I remember seeing it just because it was out of nowhere. And do you remember I bought you guys that video of the Brave Little Toaster? It was on VHS video.
Yeah,
I loved that little story.
I was
Lassiter.
I was mystified
Lassiter.
why this is good. I thought.
But Lassiter was involved in that. That's what he got fired over.
My favorite part of that movie was where the toaster jumps into the grinding gears and just like kamikazes himself.
It was so high drama.
That's
and he withstands the gloppeter. Yeah, that was just really good drama.
When I was a kid, there were parts of that movie that were too quiet. I was like, this is uncomfortably quiet, where they're in a cabin or that weird fat guy is outside, and it's like, I'm like, needs more kind of comforting music or activity.
Something, huh? Yeah. I don't, and I really don't remember it. I just know I really liked it. I do remember that I really liked it. I'll have to look for it on the Disney Channel.
Yep.
So my takeaway from this, and this is what he says in the first chapter, is that Pixar's story is a triple helix. He calls it a triple helix of artistic, technological, and business struggles. And so artistic is Lassiter. He's the main artistic driving force. The technological was this Catmull, who was, at the edge of this, at the beginning of this technological development. And the business struggles was Jobs. He was the money man. He had the vision, and he had the cojones to, negotiate with Disney, and that triple helix, that triumvirate, it's good that they came together somehow. And the second message that the author comes away with is the professional prestige plus social status flow into each other. And of course, we all know this is true, because if you are the best, you attract the best. And so, that's absolutely true. But the third measure that I found in this story is their perseverance. And in spite of the fact that they had to earn money to support their families, and they didn't give up, they wanted to make feature-length animated movies, and they did. And they found a way, even though they had struggles, and even though they had to find a patron, or they were at one point they said he was an animation company pretending to be a computer company. You got to pay the bills, but they did what they did, and they did it to perfection. You never saw Up?
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I didn't really like it. I just stopped liking
I loved it.
I just I don't know why. I don't like it. It
Okay.
seemed too kind of ridiculous. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yep.
Well, no more ridiculous than the toys crossing the street to get to the toy barn, in Toy Story 2.
I don't know why. I was
I
like,
remember when when I watched that, this is impossible, forgetting the fact that they are in fact toys.
I liked how it was. The early ones had a element of like accidental or confusion. Like I liked when the bugs didn't realize they're supposed to fight. They thought they're going to perform, and the ants thought, "Oh, you're going to save us," and they both like misunderstand. And then Buzz doesn't know what's going on, and then the Woody accidentally kicks him out the window. They all turn on him by misunderstanding. But I didn't like the Monster Inc. They just all misunderstand that the kids are toxic and can like kill you. But the other ones where it's like a normal Incredibles, like, oh, I hate my life. I'm living a lie. Let's fix this. I was like, hey, yeah, I know what this is. And then Up was like, I'm an old man and I'm gonna go on an adventure. I'm like, okay, go ahead. I don't know. And yeah, Finding Nemo, I also didn't like. I'm like, this is I
Interesting, because I didn't like Finding Nemo either, but I liked Finding Dory a little bit better. But Finding Nemo, I wasn't crazy about either. But that's the one that broke the record held by Lion King. For Pixar's breaking the record for box office.
Yeah, all the other ones after Monster Inc. seemed like straight ahead. Yep. Oh, even WALL-E had misunderstanding.
WALL-E, I love WALL-E.
Yeah, it's like, what? He has to do this thing, and he doesn't even know why. He doesn't even know that humans are gone, and then the other robot comes down, and they're like, oh, what are you? Hello. And like, yeah, it's all based on unfolding misunderstanding. I thought was their signature.
Okay. There's also always in these Pixar movies an earnestness, right? A sincerity and an earnestness that comes through in WALL-E and in Up with the Boy Scout and in all the Toy Stories with Andy comes first and the monsters wanting to do a good job. There's always a sincerity factor and an earnestness in them. And that's, I think, a universal appeal.
Yeah. And I didn't like the later Toy Story 3, Toy Story 4. Aren't there 4? And I'm like, I don't know. I think
there are 4. Yeah. I think 2.
I'm remembering why I kind of stopped all those ones.
Well, that'll do it. Yeah. I don't think I ever, I guess I did watch 3 and 4, but 2 is the best.
It looks like also that your favorite Zootopia is also Lasseter's. He was executive producer. So on this wiki, that's the only one that's not Pixar that has his name on it.
It's not Pixar?
That one's Disney.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Zootopia is another good one. And he is the sort of this creative force, and he learned as he went. Well, what's interesting, I also was interested in the book. It said how Cal Arts was kind of a Disney project, sort of like a feeder school for Disney. And I'm not sure if he went there, but I didn't know that about Cal Arts.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that Zootopia too was based on. I was ready to not like that either, but it was also had a confusing thing where they thought animals were vicious or something about that, but
it's very political.
Yeah, it was super. Yeah, I was like, what am I supposed to take away from it?
Right. But it had the funniest scene in all of Disney World with that sloth at the DMV.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this maybe it needs a second read or something. So I might have to get back into Pixar and just maybe read this one again someday. But yep, what is the next one?
Well, I think we have talked about this, and I think I'm going to recommend A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. Margie recommended this to all of us. She doesn't know much about Japanese culture, and so this was interesting for her. It's a little bit big. Type is a little bit small. But what do you say to this?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And you can wrangle her to make a guest spot. Or
yeah, so you'll have to
whatever.
tell us how to do that, and then we can accomplish
delegate that to you, as it's your
choice.
choice.
Well, I don't know how to. You'll have to tell me then. I don't know how to tell her to do it. Can she join this just like I did?
Yep. Yeah. You're the podcasting
okay.
expert. So it's now to take your next disciple under your wing.
Oh my God. You're going to delegate. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, that's it. So we'll see you next time.